We've got to wait a minute.
Okay.
For the record, we are past 1 o'clock and we appear to have a quorum.
And I'd like to call this meeting of the MPO to order. If you've all joined me in the Pledge of Allegiance, please.
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. First off, I'll ask if any board member has any known or perceived conflict of interest with any item on the agenda. Seeing none, I'll open up the first salvo of public comment, which I don't think there is any to be had, but Mayor Enriquez is joining us. I'd entertain a motion to approve the agenda.
So moved. Trustee Johnson Burek.
Second, Hernandez.
Thank you.
Hold on just a moment, Madam Chair. I was not ready with my notes. So that was Trustee Johnson Burek who moved and Mayor Hernandez who seconded.
Yes. For the approval of the agenda.
All right, this is on the motion to approve the agenda for today's meeting. Trustee Johnson Burek,
Yes.
Mr. Chavarria,
Yes.
Mayor Enriquez,
Yes.
Mayor Hernandez,
Yes.
Councilor McClure,
Yes.
Commissioner Gameros,
Yes.
Madam Chair.
Yes.
Madam Chair, the motion passes.
Thank you. Next up will be electing the officers. I don't know if you want to give sort of the overview. Thank you.
Yes, will do, Madam Chair. There is a historic precedent governing how the Mesilla Valley MPO Board has historically handled the passing of the torch, as it were. Historically, it's been done in rotation between the city of Las Cruces, Doña County, and the town of Mesilla. NMDOT has always consistently declined to participate in the rotation. However, I want to say at the outset that this precedent is not binding. The board may delegate or assign or elect as chair whomever among its membership that it deems to be appropriate and fit for the office. So In 2024, Councilor Corrin from the city of Las Cruces held the chair, and Commissioner Shaljo Hernandez held the vice chair from Doña County. So following the previous precedent, it would be the turn of Doña County to hold the chair for calendar year 2025. However, I will note that Commissioner Shaljo Hernandez was not reassigned to the MPO for calendar year 2025 by Doña County, so I currently do not have a standing vice chair. But it would be the turn of Doña County to be the chair this year, and then the turn of the town of Mesilla to be vice chair for calendar year 2025. Again, this is not a binding precedent, but it is one that generally has been scrupulously followed by the board, at least certainly throughout the history that I am aware of. One last thing that I do want to note, and I'm not trying to scare anybody away, I promise, but I do just want everyone to understand that the role of MPO chair, it is a role. It's not just presiding at the meetings on a monthly basis. There is work that has to go towards that. It will hopefully not be nearly as much of a burden as Councilor Corrin had to do in 2024, but it will still be some work that the individual who takes the role will have to undertake. And actually, Madam Chair, if you'll indulge me, I would like at this point to express the gratitude of staff to you for all of your hard work that you did on our behalf last year. It was one of the most significant years in the history of this MPO, and we would literally not be where we are today without all of the extra miles that you carried us forward with. So on behalf of staff, at least, thank you very much. We really appreciate all of your hard work. So with that, I did just another point of clarification. You will still be chair throughout the rest of this agenda item, so it's not a situation. We had a tack where Mr. Bartholomew tried to hand the gavel over in mid-agenda item. You'll need to preside over both of the elections before transitioning over. So that's my spiel. Yeah, that concludes my comments.
So having heard that whole spiel, and I look at the county representative who's here conspicuously, I do understand that Commissioner Sanchez is also on his way, so he'll be here shortly. Thank you for orienting us and into both the tradition and the expectation of this agenda item where we elect. So our job is to elect chair and vice chair today.
That is correct.
Right now.
We'll be working on the executive committee next.
And so vice chair would theoretically be town of Mesilla.
If we follow the precedent, yes.
So I would ask that we do consider vice chair first with that in mind, that sort of tradition. And I would accept nominations, including
Madam Chair?
self-nominations. Yes.
I would like to nominate Russell Hernandez from the town of Mesilla for vice chair. I know he already has a lot on his plate, but what's another thing? It's getting mayor.
I'll second.
There is a second. Did you accept
I'll
that?
accept.
You accept that nomination? All right. Thank you. Trustee Mayor, thank you. Thank you for accepting the nomination. So are there any other nominations or other things to consider? Seeing none, we can roll call the vice chair vote.
Yes, Madam Chair, and let the record reflect that Commissioner Sanchez has now arrived and the door did not close behind him. This is on the motion to elect Mayor Hernandez from the town of Mesilla as vice chair for the Mesilla Valley MPO for calendar year 2025. Trustee Johnson-Burek,
Yes.
Mr. Chavarria,
Yes.
Commissioner Sanchez,
Yes.
Mayor Enriquez,
Yes.
Mayor Hernandez,
Yes.
Councilor McClure,
Yes.
Commissioner Gomeros.
Yes.
Madam Chair.
Yes.
Madam Chair, the motion passes.
Next up, we need to elect a chair.
Oh, well, and I'd like to, Andrew, if I may, just also echo your comments and commend Councilor Corrin on the job she did as chair this past year. She was always engaged, and I know it was so much work this past year. So I truly appreciate all you did. So thank you, Councilor.
Thank you. I appreciate that. And I've really enjoyed it. So thank you for the opportunity to be here in this context. Speaking of what a great opportunity being chair is, I would entertain a motion to accept, I would entertain a motion for someone perhaps from the county, as has tradition has suggested, for someone to become a chair. Just hypothetically, anyone.
Madam Chair, I
From the
would like
coun-
to nominate Commissioner
Oh.
Sanchez.
Great, thank you. Is there a second for that?
I'll second it.
Is this my penalty for showing up late?
Yep. Yeah, and then you didn't shut the door, so that pretty much sealed the deal. You were doomed. Thank you, and I will follow up also when we have the executive committee conversation, which I think if you are elected chair, you might be tasked with leading. But any other nominations? Lest we unscrupulously defy tradition, maybe we should do a roll call on the electing the.
Well, our attorneys are here,
Sanchez.
Madam Chair, so we probably should follow the rules, yes. This is on the motion to elect Commissioner Sanchez from Doña County as Mesilla Valley MPO Chair for calendar year 2025. Trustee Johnson Burek?
Yes.
Mr. Chavarria?
Yes.
Commissioner Sanchez?
Yes.
Mayor Enriquez?
Yes.
Mayor Hernandez?
Yes.
Councilor McClure?
Yes.
Commissioner Gomeros?
Yes.
Madam Chair?
Yes,
Madam Chair, the motion passes.
you want me to, you ready? Here,
Thank you.
I hand it straight over to you.
All right.
Let me just ceremoniously.
Thank you.
There you go, champ.
All right. Well, thank you, everybody, for your support and trust to be the chair this year. All right, so we'll move on then to agenda item number 6, which is the election of, number 7, election of the executive committee.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This action item is actually already 3/4 determined. According to the MPO bylaws, the chair, vice chair, and the district engineer from NMDOT are already by right members of the executive committee for this year. What remains to be seen is who the jurisdiction that's out of office this year, which is the city of Las Cruces, wishes to put forward as their representative. We do not have a past precedent for how this is handled. Councilor Corrin did propose a particular precedent that we will consider later on this year when it comes to addressing the bylaws, but when we look at revising the bylaws, but as it stands right now, we don't have a particular precedent. So it's up to the city of Las Cruces to put forward whichever one of its delegation it wants to have on the executive committee for calendar year 25.
And I look to my colleagues from the city, but I would like to volunteer for this particular role, in part because it's important to have a liaison who, because of the MOU and the sort of city relationship, but I don't want to usurp any of y'all's desires to be on the executive committee, if that's.
If I may, Chair, I was going to, I second that because of the history that you would bring to the executive committee, and you have been on it. So I think that's a very wise choice.
Mr. Chair, if we could we please have Trustee Johnson Burek's statement stand as the motion and then ask for a second on that? I think it would be clearer that way. And also, in spite of my statement, we do need to have the motion say that you do nominate the chair, vice chair, Mr. Chavarria, and then Councilor Corrin as the executive committee for this year.
Okay, so if I can get a motion to nominate Commissioner Sanchez as well as Mayor Hernandez from the town of Mesilla, and also Councilor Corrin from the city of Las Cruces and Mr. Chavarria from NMDOT to be members of the executive committee.
So moved?
Okay, I have a motion by Trustee Johnson Burek,
Second.
a second by Mayor Enriquez. Are there any comments? All right, if we get a roll call, please.
Yes, Mr. Chair. Trustee Johnson Burek,
Yes.
Mr. Chavarria,
Yes.
Councilor Corrin,
Yes.
Mayor Enriquez,
Yes.
Mayor Hernandez,
Yes.
Councilor McClure,
Yes.
Commissioner Gomeros,
Yes.
Mr. Chair.
Yes.
Mr. Chair, the motion passes.
All righty, so then that is our executive committee. Thank you, Councilor Corrin, for rounding us out. All right, we'll move on to the approval of the minutes of December 11th, 2024. If I could get a motion for approval, please.
So moved?
All right,
Seconded?
I have a motion from trustee Johnson Burek and a second by Counselor Corrin to approve the minutes. Are there any changes, questions?
I just want to offer up a brief explanation as to I'm sure everyone noticed the oddity of the minutes from December. Members will remember that we had that technical glitch that happened during the December Policy Board meeting with regard to the sound system. We thought that we had gotten the glitch successfully corrected, and we at least did as far as getting the microphones and the lights and everything to be working again. Unfortunately, what we did not realize until afterward was that it had erased the recording. So we do not have the ability to have verbatim minutes for the December Policy Board meeting. So we put together summary minutes as are compliant with the New Mexico Meetings Act. Regret to say that that is the best that we're going to be able to do, and we'll certainly endeavor to not have that happen again. But glitches happen. It was out of our control, and we didn't realize it until afterwards. So that's the reason why the minutes appear the way that they do.
Thank you. Appreciate the explanation, and I think it's understandable, I think, is given that different situation that was seen or that we went through. So, all right. Are there any other comments or questions? All right. Not hearing or seeing any, so if we can get a roll call, please.
This is on the motion to approve the minutes for December 11th, 2024. Trustee Johnson Burek,
I will abstain.
Mr. Chavarria,
Yes.
Counselor Corrin,
Yes.
Mayor Enriquez,
Yes.
Mayor Hernandez,
Yes.
Counselor McClure,
Yes.
Commissioner Gameros,
I will abstain.
Mr. Chair.
Yes.
Mr. Chair, the motion passes.
Thank you. Those minutes are approved. All right, we're under action items, agenda item 9.1, which is resolution 25-01, a resolution certifying compliance with the Open Meetings Act for calendar year 2025 by the Mesilla Valley MPO. If we can get a motion and a second for approval.
So moved?
All right.
Second?
I have a motion by trustee Johnson Burek and a second by Counselor Corrin.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. At this time, I would like to introduce Mr. Sergio Estrada, who's from Kemp Smith and serves as MPO legal counsel.
Newly elected chair and board members, good afternoon. Congratulations on your elections and appointments to the executive committee. My name is Sergio Estrada, and I'm a partner at Kemp Smith in the Public Law and Government Law Group. And we've been serving as legal counsel to the Mesilla Valley MPO August of 2023, Andrew, correct? Cool. And it's been a great experience. We also serve as legal counsel to the El Paso MPO, and I know some of you from that governmental body. As you've all just approved a resolution certifying compliance with the Open Meetings Act, New Mexico Open Meetings Act. My colleague Lillian Sanchez is going to give you a brief overview of the New Mexico Open Meetings Act. I noticed that in your packets, you have the New Mexico Compliance Guide. So if there are any questions that are not answered fully by this presentation, we'll be available to answer any questions you have. But do know that there's a New Mexico Compliance Guide in your packet prepared by the New Mexico Attorney General's office. So with that, I'm going to hand it over to Lillian. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chair. Good afternoon, board members. I'm Lillian Sanchez, and I'm here to give a brief overview of the New Mexico Open Meetings Act. So our three principal objectives of this presentation is one, to provide an overview of OMA's importance and why you should comply with it. Second, to identify the limited exceptions allowed by OMA. And lastly, to understand OMA's enforcement and the consequences for violating it. So the main policy and purpose of OMA is for all meetings of any public body except the legislature and the courts to be public meetings, and all persons so desiring shall be permitted to attend and listen to the deliberations and proceedings. So first of all, what is a public meeting? A public meeting includes all meetings of a quorum of members held for the purpose of formulating public policy, discussing public business, or taking any action, are declared to be public meetings open to the public at all times. In short, there are 3 requirements that must be met in order for a meeting to be considered a public meeting. Number 1, be a policy-making body. Number 2, establish a quorum. And number 3, formulate public policy, discuss public business, or take any action that the body has authority to take. Now let's talk about rolling quorums and why they're prohibited. OMA's requirement for open public meeting applies to any discussion of public business among a quorum of a public body's members. Therefore, a public body may not circumvent OMA's provisions by a meeting in a series of groups that are less than a quorum. A quorum may exist even when the members are not physically present together at the same time or at the same place. Rolling quorums are a violation of the OMA because they are not properly noticed public meetings. So now we're going to talk about some scenarios and whether or not they violate OMA. Starting with the first scenario. Scenario A, is there a rolling quorum in violation of OMA when 4 of the 6 school members attend school functions, social, or other non-formal meetings? And the answer here is no. OMA contains no specific provisions against school board members attending school functions, although the Act does control their conduct, that while attending these social functions, there are certain constraints within the Act that guide the public officials of attending such functions that, if adhered to, would help minimize the appearance of impropriety. Therefore, to constitute a violation of OMA, a quorum of a public body must be present outside of an open meeting, and such quorum must be formulating public policy, discussing public business, or taking action on public business. It may appear suspicious when members of a public body attend events outside of a public meeting, particularly where a quorum of the members is seen together. However, under OMA, that does not prohibit members of a public body from meeting together socially for reasons other than business. Thus, the mere fact that the school board members may be seen together in one place is not enough to establish that it has failed to comply with OMA's provisions, unless additional facts of evidence are presented to show that these board members were discussing public business among them. Scenario number 2, Mr. Green and Ms. Red, 2 members of the 5-member Agave Water District, a public body, have a telephone conversation and agree to terminate the water district's executive director. Mr. Green then prepares a termination letter, signs it, and delivers it to Ms. Red for her signature. Ms. Red proceeds to sign the letter and delivers it to a 3rd body member, who signs it and delivers it to a 4th board member for his signature. The 5th board member does not participate in the termination action. Is there a violation here? And the answer is yes. In this case, the board has violated OMA. The termination letter and subsequent signature amount to an action by a quorum of the board outside of a properly noticed and conducted public meeting. It makes no difference that 4 members who made up the quorum were not together in the same place when signing the letter. Now we're going to talk about remote participation under the OMA. If otherwise allowed by law or rule of the public body, a member of a public body may participate in a meeting of the public body by means of a conference, via telephone or other similar communication equipment when it is otherwise difficult or impossible. Emphasis on those words. For the member to attend the meeting in person, provided that each member participating by conference telephone can be identified when speaking, all participants are able to hear each other at the same time, and members of the public attending the meeting are able to hear any member of the public body who speaks during the meeting. OMA itself does not authorize remote participation, but when it is allowed by other laws or regulation, OMA provisions apply. However, the difficult or impossible provision has the effect of discouraging remote participation. Thus, in all cases where it is possible, members of a public body should attend meetings in person. Participation by telephone should occur only when circumstances beyond the member's control would make attendance in person extremely inconvenient. Now, notice requirements. Any public meeting at which a majority or quorum of the body is in attendance, and any closed meeting shall be held only after reasonable notice to the public. The affected public body shall determine at least annually in a public meeting what notice for a public meeting is considered reasonable when applied to that specific body. Overall, a public body must give notice of all public meetings of a quorum of the public body. A reasonable notice must adequately, accurately, and sufficiently in advance inform the public of the meeting's time, place, date, and should be published and/or posted in a place or manner accessible to the public. So continuing on notice, meeting notices shall include an agenda containing a list of specific items of business to be discussed or transacted at the meeting, or information on how the public may obtain a copy of such agenda. Except in cases of emergency, at least 72 hours prior to the meeting, the agenda shall be available to the public or posted on the public body's website, if one exists or is maintained. Except for emergency matters, a public body shall take action only on items appearing on the agenda. Now, what constitutes an emergency under that provision? Emergency refers to an unforeseen circumstance that, if not addressed immediately by the public body, will likely result in injury or damage to persons or property or substantial financial loss to the public body. Within 10 days of taking action on an emergency matter, the public body shall report to the Attorney General's office the action taken and the circumstances creating the emergency. Now moving on to meeting minutes. A public body must keep written minutes of all meetings. At minimum, the minutes must always include date, time, place of the meeting, the names of the members in attendance and those who were not there, the substance of the proposals considered, and a record of any decision and votes taken that show how each member voted. All minutes are subject to public inspection. The draft of minutes shall be prepared within 10 working days after the meeting and shall be approved, amended, or disapproved at the next meeting where a quorum is present. Minutes shall not become official until approved by the public body. OMA's requirements that the minutes show how each single member voted on a matter decided by the public body precludes the members from voting anonymously. Now, closed meetings. Under subsection H of the OMA, this subsection identifies the circumstances under which certain meetings or portions of a meeting are not subject to OMA's open meetings and minute-taking requirements. Because the general policy strongly favors open meetings, a public body must strictly follow OMA's provision when participating in closed meetings. There are 10 different exceptions to OMA's open meeting requirements. For instance, number 1, limited personnel matters such as hiring, promotion, demotion, dismissal, assignment, or resignation of or the investigation or consideration of complaints or charges against any individual public employee. Final action must always be in open session. The portion of meetings at which a decision concerning purchases in an amount exceeding $2,500 that can only be made from one source is discussed in that portion of meetings at which the context of competitive sealed proposals solicited pursuant to the procurement code are discussed during the contract negotiation process. The actual purchase approval or final action regarding the selection of a contractor shall be made in an open meeting, and meetings subject to the attorney-client privilege pertaining to threatened or pending litigation in which the public body is or may become a participant also falls under those 10 exceptions. Now, requirements for a closed meeting are as follows. Number 1, the agenda must pertain to one of the 10 exceptions. 2, a motion must be made stating the legal exception for closing the meeting, the agenda items to be discussed as well. A roll call vote must be taken in the open meeting, and the minutes must include a statement regarding the closed session. Now, only those subjects voted upon prior to the closed meeting may be discussed in a closed meeting. Now, invalid actions. Under OMA, no resolution, rule, regulation, ordinance, or action of any public body shall be valid unless taken or made at a meeting held in accordance with OMA's requirements. There is a presumption that any action taken by a public body was taken in accordance with OMA's requirements. Where this is shown not to be the case, the public body's actions may be held invalid. Now we're going to jump into the enforcement of OMA and what happens when OMA is violated. All OMA's provisions must be enforced by the Attorney General or the District Attorney in the county of jurisdiction. A private individual may apply for enforcement through the district courts, provided that the individual first provides written notice of the claim violation to the public body and that the public body has denied or not acted on the claim within 15 days of receiving it. A court shall award cost of reasonable attorney's fees to any person who is successful in bringing a court action to enforce the provisions of OMA. Criminal sanction includes violation of OMA is a misdemeanor punishable by up to $5,000 per violation. And lastly, enforcement of civil and criminal actions. According to New Mexico's AG Compliance Guide, it is the intent of the Attorney General to prosecute misdemeanors only in the case of knowing and either flagrant or repeated violations of the requirements of the Act. The Attorney General will not prosecute where there has been a good faith attempt to comply with the Act. In most cases, if a violation is found, the New Mexico Attorney General will enforce OMA by first advising the public body that an action taken by the body was not compliant with OMA and is consequently not valid. Unless there's history of OMA violations, the public body will then be advised to begin again and consider the intended actions in accordance with OMA's provisions. This is all for me. If you have any questions, I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you so much for the presentation.
Thank you so much.
Board members, are there any questions on the presentation?
Thank you.
Thank you. So I know, given the presentation, is there any other discussion, Mr. Ray, before we vote on the issue?
None from staff, although we do want to clarify, Ms. Sanchez inadvertently says $5,000 fine. It's actually a $500 fine.
We'll roll with 5,000 to scare.
I mean, it's scarier that way, so yeah, maybe. None. So if you're ready for me to call the roll, Mr. Chair.
Yes, if there's no one last chance for questions. All right.
This is on the motion to approve Resolution 25-01, certifying Mesilla Valley MPO's compliance with the Open Meetings Act for calendar year 2025. Trustee Johnson-Burek.
Yes.
Mr. Chavarria.
Yes.
Counselor Corrin.
Yes.
Mayor Enriquez.
Yes.
Mayor Hernandez.
Yes.
Counselor McClure.
Yes.
Commissioner Gomeros.
Yes.
Mr. Chair.
Yes.
Mr. Chair, the motion passes.
Thank you. All right, on to agenda item 9.2. It's Resolution 25-02. It's a resolution to authorize the MPO Policy Board to begin negotiations for the MPO Executive Director position. If I can get a motion, a second to begin discussion, please.
So moved.
Second.
All right, a motion by Trustee Johnson-Burek, a second by Counselor Corrin.
I would like to introduce Mr. Sergio Estrada.
Well, good afternoon again. And yes, 5,000 is much scarier than the 500 that is listed in the PowerPoint. So this item, Chair and board members, is a simple request that you approve a resolution authorizing, the MPO Policy Board to begin negotiations for the MPO Executive Director position. And if we look at the specific action requested of this resolution, the Policy Board wishes to enter into contract negotiations with Mr. Andrew Ray to convert his position into that of MPO Executive Director, and allowing MPO staff, including legal, to take appropriate and legal actions to implement this resolution. Of course, we will come back to you all at a later date to discuss the actual contract and have you all review and approve all those terms. This is just formalizing the act of starting that process. Any questions?
Any Policy Board members, questions? I know, like you had mentioned, it was previously discussed, at least kind of the process at the previous meetings that we've had. So I think there's been at least some
Yes.
understanding. So
Yes,
okay.
sir.
All right, if there are no comments, questions, then
Yes, sir.
we'll ask for a roll call vote on Resolution 25-02.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Trustee Johnson-Burek.
Yes.
Mr. Chavarria.
Yes.
Counselor Corrin.
Yes.
Mayor Enriquez.
Yes.
Mayor Hernandez.
Yes.
Counselor McClure.
Yes.
Counselor Gomeros.
Yes.
Mr. Chair.
Yes.
Mr. Chair, the motion passes.
Thank you all. All right. Sorry. Okay, we're on to the discussion items portion of our agenda. We'll start with agenda item 10.1, which is a memorandum of understanding with the Las Cruces Police Department. Mr. Ray.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This presentation actually is the first stage of a culmination of something that we've been working on actually since your previous tenure as chair. Mr. Chair, you'll recall, and I remember I mentioned this at the December Policy Board meeting, how we had been working with LCPD to develop this memorandum of understanding for the past 2 years. We have actually already sort of been utilizing some of the aspects of this MOU already in our operations, particularly everyone will remember Ms. Provingi's presentation about the safety data last year, but we very much want to go ahead and memorialize that relationship that we have with the PD to govern our utilization of that data. And our intention, as I have expressed previously, is to get similar MOUs in place with Doña County Sheriff's Department, Town of Mesilla Marshal's Office, and as I was reminded yesterday, and I had forgotten, but we also want to set up a similar arrangement with New Mexico State University Police as well, so that we can have basically the complete data set for our entire MPO, because, and I didn't know this myself until recently, the data sets are all pieced out via each one of those law enforcement agencies. So just because we have it via City of Las Cruces, we still have a gap in our knowledge from Doña County, Town of Mesilla, and NMSU. So this is a culmination of a lot of work, but also only a first step. So with all of that out of the way, I would like to introduce Ms. Katerina Provingi.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chair, members of the board. So this is about the Memorandum of Understanding with the LCPD. So 23 CFR 450 requires the creation of MPOs for urban areas above 50,000 population. The Mesilla Valley, we have designated by the state of New Mexico to fulfill the transportation planning requirements of 23 CFR 450.314 in the MVMPO planning area in central and southern Doña County. The Moving Ahead for Progress for the 21st Century Act, this is just a little bit of history, was created mandatory performance measures for states and MPOs. Last year, we brought up the performance measures to the board. It was the safety performance targets or measures. So the Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act, IJA, expanded on this and requires MPOs to report these safety performance measures for MPOs' planned areas. So we are responsible for reporting these performance measures within the Mesilla Valley MPO planned area. In 2023, we and the Las Cruces Police Department's traffic division, or head of traffic division, met with us to discuss the annual safety report. And in that conversation, we also discussed traffic safety concerns, such as speeding and, of course, crashes, trends that we've seen in the past, and amongst basically that. So as a result of that, LCPD did grant us access to its tracks records. And so basically, we have the state crash data that we receive from UNM, and now we also have tracks records for only LCPD. So basically, when we're looking at crash data analysis and looking at specific, like for example, the fatalities, it kind of helps us determine basically specific factors that contributed to those crashes and kind of get an idea of, what kind of factors are more common than others. So TRACS is Traffic and Criminal Software. It's a statewide traffic data collection software initiative implemented with the goal of electronic data transfer. This allows law enforcement agencies throughout the state to be able to report and share and transfer basically anything. So uniform traffic citations, uniform crash reports, commercial vehicle inspections, offense incident forms, tow sheets, and other supplemental forms used daily by law enforcement. So within our planned area, we do have 5 enforcement agencies, as Mr. Ray stated. We have New Mexico State Police, they are the lead agency. We have Doña County Sheriff's Office, LCPD, Mesilla Marshal, and New Mexico State University Police. And so our goal in the end is to somehow create this relationship that we have with LCPD with other law enforcement agencies within our planned area. So in the MOU, the contents of the MOU codify the responsibilities and cooperation between the Mesilla Valley MPO and LCPD. The MOU states the agreement of us to utilize the data for research purposes only and to not reveal personal information from these reports. And, oh, sorry, there's a typo. Basically, the MOU also has an agreement between us and LCPD that we are not to directly distribute these crash reports to any other parties. So the draft version of the MOU has been reviewed and accepted by LCPD and us and the MPO. And so, like I stated previous, the goal is to cooperate with other local law enforcement agencies within our planned area and to be able to access their tracks reports for more complete crash data analysis. I will now stand for comments and questions.
Thank you, Ms. Ravengi. Are there any questions? Councilor McClure.
Just a quick question. Is this access as in like you do it from your desktop, or do you have to send a request?
Mr. Chair, Councilor McClure, yes. So this is on my computer, or
Okay.
on
Thank you.
our computers, yeah.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chavarria.
Mr. Chair, Kat, you know, where the DOT were like 2 years behind in providing crash data from UNM, is this going to process, are you guys going to be able to get that crash data information a lot faster? Is that what the thought is?
Mr. Chair, Mr. Travadia, that due to the large amount of crashes that do occur within the Mesilla Valley MPO planned area, that's not really something that we are utilizing it for. We do understand the 2-year delay and the frustrations that come with that. That's not really something that we are planning on doing. We are basically, like I said, this is just for clarification on the contributing factors of those crashes, because the crash data that we receive used to have top contributing factor. However, due to the nature of crashes and there being multiple factors in certain crashes, they would only list one factor at a time rather than several. So basically what we're doing is we're using the crash reports to kind of focus on, okay, well, what kind of factors, what other factors occurred in the crash? For example, one of the fatalities had not just driver inattention from the vehicle that caused it, but it was also the motorcyclist who was also speeding. And so with the report, because in the data, it just said driver inattention, but it didn't state anything else. Now in the report, because it was filed by LCPD, we were able to see there were multiple factors in that crash. So that's kind of what we're utilizing it for instead of that.
Mr. Chair,
Okay,
I
yes,
got,
please.
one
Go
more
ahead.
question. So if you're looking at trends for crashes and, you know, if we're still, like our data's 2 years behind, you know, those trends could potentially change, you know. So I just, I'm a little cautious. You know, you're going to have access to this data and not be looking at it a little sooner than what UNM provides us data as far as trends go.
Right.
Thank you, Mr. Chavarria. And I think that was, you know, I'd be curious to see if maybe I don't know if there's ever a point where we may be able to pivot to such, because I think one of the things that we see is, and I don't know if this is a good example or not, but we look at the work being done on Highway 70 that's between just west of Elks and in that area, and understanding with improvements being made, some of the changes in traffic, I'd almost be curious to see if there's ever an opportunity, just because I know that was always, when we look at pedestrians and issues around, you know, I think with traffic and accidents, it seemed like that was kind of, that area tended to be an area that was more of a hotspot in the city of Las Cruces. So, I mean, I don't know, like I said, I know that's not where we're using it at the moment, but it would be kind of cool to start being able to see if there's been any changes. Do you see any trends? And I know it's not official data because it's not coming from the state, but it would almost be an opportunity for us to almost like a leading indicators that you're seeing that maybe we can react to, whether within our different jurisdictions. But again, I don't know, like I said, it's just thinking out loud.
Mr. Chair, this is Andrew Ray for the record. That's a very good thought, and actually what you and Mr. Chavarria are discussing is an aspect of this that we as staff had not really thought particularly about. However, consulting with Mr. Loya, unfortunately, the problem that we're going to have with utilizing it in kind of the manner being suggested is a databasing issue, in that these incidents have to be looked up basically via case number. It's not intended because of the inputs, the style of inputs that are put into it by law enforcement and sort of outputs that are being looked at from UNM. From a sort of side end user perspective, it's not well databased. There's not a good indexing system within it for us to be able to kind of dynamically access the data in a timely manner to do that kind of analysis. It's definitely a thought that's worth exploring, and it may be there's some angles at this that we're not aware of. So we're going to follow up on that and see if there's something we could do. I do, though, want to state just caveats. We will, if we are able to present data of this nature, it will still have to be it'll be aggregate. We're not really going to delve into the particulars unless we do another report like we did last year, but we'd only be releasing data at the aggregate level, because that's also, as a matter of principle, what we think is most important. But also, we now have, or we will have, the MOU with LCPD after the board presumably takes action next month, constraining our ability to share that data. So I hope that kind of answers the question, but it's a very interesting way to look at that particular data set that we hadn't really considered.
Thank you, Mr. Ray. Mayor Rodriguez.
Yes, thank you, Chair. The question is, I'll sort of follow up when we're looking at trends and you look at the reports and you have to analyze the data collected with the use of the dispatch centers such as MIRVDA, NMSU, and State Police Dispatch just to compile the calls. And then that would be more of the real time that takes effect because of the calls that you gather. Is that not an MOU that you already have, or do you utilize the dispatch centers as an opportunity to at least gather the calls, and then later the data is analyzed and then you can compile the report?
Mr. Chair, Mr. Mayor, that is something that had never even crossed my mind. So no, we're not doing that, but that's definitely something that might be worth looking into. I can imagine there might be some, I don't know if MIRVDA or any of the other dispatchers, how they retain or aggregate their data. So that would be something that we'd have to look into, but that's definitely something that's worthy of some investigation. We'll start looking into that. So thank you for that suggestion, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. Are there any other questions? Ms. Provengi, I will say you are a victim of your success. I think understanding that the report that you gave us, particularly when we look at the fatalities, I think was very eye-opening and very thorough. And I think seeing that data is just amazing to be able to kind of, really enlighten us and understand. I think it was a really amazing report. And so I think as we see some of that, I'd love to see, if there's an opportunity for us to take a look at that and inform us as leaders for our different jurisdictions. I think it would be, definitely help us with decision-making processes. So.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
All right. Thank you, Ms. Provengi. All right, 10.2, it's Metropolitan Transportation Plan Update. Mr. Loya.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chair, members of the board. Dominic Loya for MPO staff. So this is the Metropolitan Transportation Plan update. So we are getting into the final stages of this. The Metropolitan Transportation Plan. So we'll just do a little bit of review. As it's been stated before in this meeting, we are a forum for regional transportation planning for Central Doña County. The Metropolitan Transportation Plan works to maintain eligibilities for federal transportation funds. As part of that, this is a long-range vision for the MPO area and enables project development and completion. So this is, most of the stuff from Mobility 2045 will stay in this new plan because of 2020. A lot of the stuff didn't go forward. So there's not going to be a lot of changes. This will be mostly an update. And so here you're seeing the one of the tenets of Mobility 2045, which is to serve all transportation users by planning, implementing, and maintaining a transportation system that coordinates land use and transportation planning. So in this, to start wrapping this up, this entire thing that's been going on for 18 months, we're having stakeholder meetings right now with jurisdictions. We're in the process of scheduling our last two. We will be meeting with NMDOT here at the end of the month, and then we are looking to, the other major stakeholder we have left is BLM. So we should be getting a meeting with them sometime in March. And we are bringing all the public comment we captured in the first round of public engagement to the different jurisdictions so they can kind of see what people are looking for and talking about. So we're going to have one round. The final round will be in April. All three meetings, the policy board, the technical advisory committee, and the BPAC meeting also count as public meetings, but we will be doing two or three meetings total out in the public. One will be in the northern part of the county or northern part of the MPO area. So up in Radium Springs, we're going to be doing one in the central part here in the city of Las Cruces, and then we will be doing one in the southern part of the county. Usually that's in Vado Barreno area. So that we kind of collect information from the entire breadth of the MPO area. So these are the Mobility 2050 goals. As you can see here, they haven't really changed from 2045. The federal government has also not put any new goals in. So these are all going to stay the same. As you can see, stuff like supporting health and wellness, adapting to changing technologies, things like that. And these will stay the same within this plan. The ultimate goal will be to develop an integrated, well-functioning transportation network that effectively serves the needs of the residents of the MPO area. So the timeline that we're going to be engaged in over the next few months, we're going to finish up the stakeholder meetings. We will be doing some composition over the next couple of months, updating a few things. Then in April, we will take it to the public so they can see the final product. And then in May, it will go before the BPAC for their recommendation, June before the TAC, and then it will be an action item in June, because this must be adopted before June 30th of 2025, because that is when Mobility 2045 expires on June 30th. I will now stand for any comments or questions.
Board members, any questions? Mr. Trevidio, please.
Mr. Chair, Dominic, just a question on, you're doing individual stakeholder meetings. Why not bring everybody in a group for these meetings?
Mr. Chair, Mr. Chavadier. So we wanted to kind of get a feel of what everybody was doing individually, so that because we did do that in the first round. We actually had the big group meeting, especially on things like Engler, Desert Wind Way. So this time we felt that we wanted to get kind of more of that micro level rather than just the macro level to see what the differences were, where people were actually developing projects and things like that. And this is more for project development, which is why we're having the stakeholder meetings individually.
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
Mr. Chevery, it's also a logistical difficulty to get that many people together at the same time, and for reasons that I'm not able to go into on the record, MPO staff's time is actually rather constrained right now because of outside circumstances beyond our control. So we felt that we needed to have these meetings be a little bit more flexible and agile, and the best way to do that is to just do it one-on-one, MPO staff to jurisdiction.
Thank you, guys. Appreciate that.
Thank you, Mr. Chavarria. Are there any other questions? I think I was just going to make one suggestion, and I know particularly when I was going to recommend with the county, if it's at all possible, please work with our PIO office. I want to make sure that we get it noticed and let as many people in the public know. And I think, however you guys can spread the word, so that way we can get engagement within our community members would be great. So whatever you can work with, like I said, if I'm assuming same thing with the city and the town of Mesilla, whatever we can do. It's just obviously it's more effective when members come and participate and one, get educated, understand what's going on, and then two, they actually participate and feel like they're have a stake in what's being proposed. So, but thank you.
Yes, Mr. Chair, we can certainly do that. Last time we worked with Liz Reed, yes. So to get those meetings noticed when they were out, and because we met also in Radom Springs and Bottle Barrino down there.
And I know sometimes it's a hit or miss, but whatever we can do to maximize our success would be awesome. So thank you, Mr. Loya. All right. And with that, we'll move on to agenda item 10.3, which is the Transportation Project Fund call for projects.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Dominic Loya for MPO staff again. So this is the state call for project funds. So the Transportation Project Fund is a state-funded, is completely state-funded grant. So the types of eligible projects for this are environmental and other studies, planning, design, construction, and this one also includes acquisitions of rights of way for transportation infrastructure. So in the application, a cover letter will be required with an overview of the project, an intent to apply for a hardship waiver. So there is a hardship waiver for this one through the state. The time frame of the project is supposed to take, verification of funding to complete work. So basically, it will need a signed letter for the applying jurisdictions portion. The project category, whether it's on locally owned rights of way that do not include federal funds, or if it's on an DOT owned or a national highway system route. So in the application, the category of the project, whether it's planning, construction, will be needed. The project feasibility form will need to be filled out, and then a meeting with NMDOT will happen. Resolution of sponsorship from the governing body. This is only a 5% match, so 95% of the funding will come from the state. Map of the location, and NMDOT has said in the feasibility meeting, map of the location is something that would be really good to have right up front. And then a letter of support from owners of the projects of rights of way if its local entities do not own the rights of way. So anything that would be done along an NMDOT route, because they are usually the major ones that own rights of way other than the city and the county and the town. So the timeline on this one, so we just open the call for projects. The PFF form will be due on March 21st at noon. There will be a PFF meeting with NMDOT on March 28th. We set that up from 1 to 3 in the afternoon. That is a Friday. The full application will be due on April 2nd. So in this one, the policy board will receive 2 presentations on it. And this is because these projects do have to be ranked. And that ranking will be included in the with the application packet. So basically a discussion item will be put on the April 9th with all of the projects that were brought forth. BPAC will make a ranking recommendation at their April 15th meeting. TAC will make a ranking recommendation at their May 1st meeting. And then Policy Board will get the final ranking and the May 14th meeting. It will be a resolution and action item. And then this one will, the Mesilla Valley MPO will be uploading this one to the NMDOT FTP site before May 31st. So I will now stand for any comments or questions.
Thank you, Mr. Loya. Board members, any questions? Doesn't seem like we are, so I think we're good. I think if there's any questions, we can reach out and ask them as such. So,
Yes, Mr. Chair.
okay, item 10.4, our MPO basics presentation.
Ms. Katarina Purving, you will be presenting this, Mr. Chair.
Good afternoon again. Good afternoon again, members of the board, Mr. Chair. This is the MPO basics presentation. So MPOs are federally mandated state-designated planning agencies in the metropolitan areas with population over 50,000 people, like I stated in my previous presentation. There are 5 MPOs in the state of New Mexico: El Paso MPO, Farmington MPO, Mesilla Valley MPO, that's us, Mid-Region MPO, and Santa Fe MPO. El Paso MPO and Mid-Region MPO are technically transportation management areas, also called TMAs, because their population is over 200,000 people in their areas. Small MPOs like us are created by joint powers agreements, JPAs, among the member jurisdictions of the MPO. JPAs specify the terms of intergovernmental cooperation within the MPO and the role of the MPO and the MPO staff in the transportation planning area. Additionally, JPAs also outline the financial responsibilities of each member of the MPO. MPOs are required to have bylaws to govern their internal operations and procedures. Bylaws are updated as needed or with a new JPA. Our bylaws went into effect on January 1st, 2023, and were last revised in September of 2023. NMDOT establishes 3-year cooperative agreements with each MPO. The cooperative agreements establish the terms of the financial grant to each MPO. MPO staff generally interacts with their NMDOT liaison for most issues related to NMDOT or FHWA. MPOs have required work products, and they're updated every certain amount of years. Updated every 5 years is the Public Participation Plan and the Metropolitan Transportation Plan. Updated every 3 years is the Title VI Plan. Updated every 2 years is the UPW, Unified Planning Work Program, and the Open Call for Projects for TIP, and the TIP is updated quarterly. Updated every year is the annual listing of obligated projects and the annual performance expenditure report. So the Public Participation Plan, also called the PPP, defines how an MPO will conduct its public involvement activities. The goal of the PPP is to guide the MPO to have a transparent and predictable transportation planning program that is accessible and equitable to all impacted or interested parties. The PPP must be adopted or updated before the commencement of the MTP process. The PPP is updated on a 5-year schedule. The PPP was last updated in 2023. Title VI Plan. An MPO's Title VI Plan establishes MPO compliance with Title VI of the Civil Rights Act of 1964 and all related environmental justice regulations and directives. The Title VI Plan serves as an assurance to the U.S. Department of Transportation that persons are not excluded from any planning processes. The Title VI Plan also details a complaint process for Title VI violation. The Title VI Plan must be updated every 3 years. Our Title VI Plan was last updated in 2024. The UPWP is a biennial document that outlines transportation planning activities to be conducted by MPO staff. Both of those MPO staff will oversee, as well as those MPO staff will participate in without overseeing. The UPWP must be consistent with the MTP. The Mesilla Valley MPO adopted a new UPWP, or we will adopt a new UPWP next year in 2026. So basically with the UPWP, there are two different kinds of programs, projects. We have both federal and state. Under federal, it's RTP, the TAP. Under TAP, it's the Elks Drive Trail Project, Las Cruces Lateral, and Safe Routes to School Coordinator position. And then also CMAC. Under state, we have it's the TPF, which is under state, and the current UPWP that we have went into effect last year on October 1st. The Transportation Improvement Program, TIP, is a list of federally funded and/or regionally significant projects within an MPO area. Recent completed projects, I-25 Corridor Study, I-25 Loman Interchange Landscaping and Beautification, and the Elks Drive Trail. Ongoing, we have the US 70 Maintenance, US 70 Phase 5, that's the North Main area, and University Avenue Multimodal Project. Future projects in the next 5 years, as far as we know, Roadrunner Transit Maintenance and Operations Center improvements, Dripping Springs roadway improvements, and US 70 rehabilitation and their next phase. Future projects further down the road, Arrowhead Interchange, I-10 Bridge Replacement, Mesa Grande, and the I-10 Rehabilitation Project. MTPs are long-range regional transportation plans covering a 20-year minimum planning horizon. Federal law generally requires MTPs to be updated every 5 years. MTPs must be consistent with federal transportation law and cite applicable sections of the law. MTPs have to identify facilities that function as an integrated transportation network and emphasize those facilities that serve national and regional transportation functions. It also must consider the 10 planning factors as they relate to the 20-year planning horizon, and they must describe how the performance measures and performance targets are used in the MTP to assess the transportation system. MTPs include a system performance report evaluating the condition and performance of the transportation system with respect to the performance targets. MTPs incorporate strategies to improve the performance of existing transportation facilities to relieve vehicular congestion and maximize the safety and mobility of people and goods. MTPs include strategies to enhance transportation and transit, and also incorporate a financial plan that demonstrates how the MTP can be implemented, indicates the source of the necessary funds to carry out projects in the MTP, and recommends any additional financial strategies to support project implementation. MTPs include financial strategies dedicated to maintaining not only the existing infrastructure, but also for projected future infrastructure. MTPs examine implementation of environmental mitigation activities. In MTPs, there's also scenario planning. While not required by federal law, is strongly encouraged by FHWA and NMDOT. FTA and transit planning for the future, FHWA and NMDOT encourage MPOs to address emergent issues. The currently adopted MTP for the Mesilla Valley MPO is Mobility 2045, adopted by the MPO Policy Board back in July 15th in 2020. The next MTP will be adopted by the Policy Board in June of this year. The Policy Board is the governing body of the Mesilla Valley MPO. The Policy Board is the approving body for all federally mandated documents. The Policy Board ranks all projects submitted through the Calls for Projects process. And the purpose of the MPO Basics book that we all provide to you when you join, when you're on the board, or also for our committees, is to provide a quick reference manual on MPO-related documents and materials for members of all MPO committees and staff. MPO staff is happy to provide updates to the MPO Basics book to our committee members as needed, and I will now stand for comments and questions.
Thank you, Ms. Provengi, for that presentation. Are there any questions, comments? Thank you. Appreciate the refresher. I know Commissioner Gameros, I know as you get on, I know the staff will be, good reference point if you have any questions along the way. With especially, I know understanding how they interact within the different jurisdictions and can help hopefully guide you with some of the projects that they're working on. All right. Thank you, Ms. Provengi.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
All right. MPO board updates. Are there any members of the board that would like to provide any updates?
I just wanted to check in. I visited the new offices, which was really cool. I love that there's a little bit of mountain Art Deco surrealism around. It's fabulous. And so I appreciate you all accommodating me and getting to see the new place. So I'm glad that the move has happened mostly, almost completely. So thanks again. And I'm happy to have experienced this last year with you all.
Thank you, Councilor Corn. I did want to just say, I know we kind of joked a little bit about Ms. Provengi's presentation on fatalities and such, but I felt like it really, having that kind of information really does kind of allow us to be able to have some understanding of where we're seeing, and I think this goes to just not just that presentation, but I think when we look at some of the numbers and the presentations that we have, it kind of enlightens us to some of the trends that we're seeing and understanding while there's a little bit of delay with it, it's still interesting to be able to bring that in into context. And the reason I bring it up is because we just had a presentation yesterday with the County Commission for our comprehensive roadway safety plan that's been brought up. And so, some of the questions that come up is why, how the Bohannon-Houston, which is the company that was doing the analysis, why they didn't look so much at fatalities that I think in some of the roadways we were looking at, it was really just on the absolute number of accidents. And so I think, as we kind of move forward, I know speaking just for myself, the information has been really good to be able to bring back to the county and try to start looking at, what are the things that we can do to implement to make our roads safer for drivers, but especially even our bicyclists and pedestrians, because I think there was a lot of that trend that we were seeing within the data. So I'm appreciative of the staff for the work that you do, and like I said, but I'm excited, like I said, just to be able to have that information to help us hopefully drive continued improvement in our roadways. So thank you all. Okay, so then we'll move on to NMDOT updates. Mr. Chavarria.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, I'm going to have Valerie Sherman give our updates today.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chair and members of the Policy Board. I'm Valerie Sherman, Districts 1 and 2 Planning Liaison for New Mexico DOT. And I'm going to go just briefly through the current projects. Of course, we have the US 70 Main Street project between Travis and Solano, and that is ongoing. And estimated completion time is April 2025. And then we've got the Interstate 10 over Main Street Bridge Preservation Project. And the traffic has now been moved over into the westbound lanes. And that is estimated to be completed in June of 2025. And then we have the University Avenue project between Highway 28 and Main Street. And that, of course, just recently got started in November, or recently, about a month ago. And that is supposed to be completed in November of 2026. And then the US 70 resurfacing project is currently on a winter suspension, and that should start back up in May of 2025. And when it does, they will do nighttime work during the weekdays and then daytime work on weekends. And then the last one, we have the I-10 maintenance project between Las Cruces and the Texas state line. And that one is also under winter suspension, and it will resume in April of 2025. And that's all I have, but I'll try to answer questions if you have any.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Are there any questions from the update?
Chair,
Commissioner
Commissioner?
Gomez, yes, please.
I was just wondering if you could share that information with us through email?
Sure.
Thank you.
Yes, I'd be glad to.
Thank you.
All right. Any other questions?
Okay.
Thank you. Is there any other updates, Mr. Taveria?
Mr. Chair, that's it.
All right, thank you. All right, MPO staff update. Mr. Ray.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This is Andrew Ray for the record. I have very, very good news to announce to the board. But yesterday I received back the JPA from NMDFA. So everything is completely done and official as far as that end of the paperwork is concerned. So we are now operating under the new dispensation as of yesterday at 3:45 in the afternoon. So technically speaking, you were the governing board today instead of the policy board, but since the agenda went out prior to this, we just kept the policy board nomenclature. But you are the governing board now, so we will be using that nomenclature going forward. And yeah, it's the culmination of 2.5 years of work, so we're very glad to be where we are and looking forward to getting started on the next phase of this transition. And I believe that is everything that we have to update on our end. We've updated on all the project, calls for projects that we have going on and the MTP work that we're doing. So I don't believe there's anything else to update the board on today.
All right, thank you, Mr. Ray. I guess with that, we'll move on to public comment. But I don't hear or see any members of the public that are present, so we'll move on to our last item, which is adjournment. If I can get a motion, a second to adjourn.
So moved.
Have a motion by Councilor Corrin. I will second that motion. And so we'll call this meeting adjourned at 2:17 p.m. Thank you all for joining, and we will see you all next month here at the Commission Chambers. Thank you.